You don't know what silence is until you've heard it in an Olympic stadium. The stands should have been a roar, a tsunami of sound. Instead, as I touched the wall first, my name flashing on the board in a new world record, the only thing I heard was the echo of my own gasp for air. I looked up, my vision blurred from the chlorine and the effort. The section where my family's tickets were, section 108, row B, was empty. 3 seats, a perfect triangle of nothing, surrounded by a sea of screaming strangers waving flags. My coach, Marta, threw her arms around me at the edge of the pool. "You did it, Kieran! A world record! Look at them all for you!" Her voice cracked with emotion. I looked. I saw flags. Just not ours. Not for me. While I was in the water rewriting history, my father was on a golf course in Palm Springs, posting a birdie putt to his Instagram. My mother was at a charity luncheon for a museum she'd never visited. My sister, Ilara, was live streaming a shopping haul from Rodeo Drive. My medal ceremony was at 3:17 p.m. At 3:18 p.m., our family group chat lit up. "Dad, heard you won. The firm just landed the McAllister account. Drinks on me tonight." "Mom, darling, that's lovely. Did you remember to thank your sponsors properly? Image is everything." Ilara, "OMG, the gold looks cute. Does it come in rose gold?" I stood on the podium, the weight of the gold medal alien around my neck, the national anthem playing for a country they'd left 20 years ago for tax purposes. The empty seats in section 108 felt heavier than the medal. That night, in the sterile athletes' village, I didn't celebrate. I sat on my bed, the medal in my hand, cold and dense. My phone buzzed again. My father's assistant. "Mr. Denver requests you wear the Ralph Lauren suit for the Today Show appearance tomorrow. The Navy one. He's had it couriered over. Also, please mention Denver Capital's unwavering support in your interview. Congrats." I put the phone down. I looked at the medal. I looked at the suit hanging in its plastic shroud. 4 years of 4 a.m. practices, of torn muscles, of a social life that was just a list of foods I couldn't eat. For this. For a PR bullet point in my father's corporate newsletter. Something didn't break. It evaporated. The last filament of hope that I could ever be more than a branding opportunity to them dissolved into the air-conditioned air. I took the medal off. I placed it on the nightstand. Then I opened my laptop and logged into the private, encrypted drive I'd labeled Project Anchor. Inside were bank statements, not for my athlete's stipend, but for the investment fund I'd been quietly building with my competition earnings since I was 18. The balance glowed on the screen. $3,750,000. While they were trying to monetize my glory, I'd been quietly buying my freedom. And tomorrow, on national television, I would start spending it. My name is Kieran Denver. For 22 years, I was the Denver family's passion project, a walking, talking, swimming testament to their enlightened patronage. My father, Alistair Denver, built a private equity empire on leverage and cold reads. My mother, Vivian, curated their public image like a priceless gallery. My sister, Ilara, was the heiress in training, her value measured in social capital and brand partnerships. I was the outlier, the one who got his energy out in the pool. When I showed talent, they didn't see a dream. They saw an angle. An Olympic athlete in the family, my father mused. It humanizes the brand. Good optics. They hired the best coaches, the best nutritionists, the best sports psychologists. It wasn't support, it was an investment. My career became a subsidiary of Denver Capital. My races were evaluated on ROI, return on image. The family support was a press release. They attended exactly one event per season for the photo ops. The rest of the time, I was a boarding school expense, then a college athlete, then a professional, all managed from a distance by my father's PR team. My real family was the aquatic center. My real parents were Coach Marta and the elderly janitor Hector, who would ask about my times and slip me homemade tamales. At 18, I won my first major international medal. The bonus prize money was $50,000. My father's accountant called. "We'll be depositing this into your trust, Kieran, for safekeeping and tax efficiency." My trust? The Kieran Denver Athlete Fund, managed by Denver Capital. Your father's idea, to secure your future. I never saw a statement. I got an allowance. I started to ask questions. The answers were always the same. "We're handling it. Don't worry about the boring details. Just focus on the pool." So I did, and I started my own boring details. I found a financial advisor, a former athlete named Leo, who'd been burned by his own family. He helped me set up a blind trust, utterly separate from the Denvers. Every competition bonus, every small endorsement they didn't broker for me, every appearance fee, I funneled it in, slowly, quietly. The real training wasn't just in the pool. It was in learning to hide my financial literacy, to play the dumb jock they assumed I was. I let them think my Project Anchor notes were training logs about core strength. They were about compound interest. The final straw was the endorsement deal they tried to force on me 6 months before the games. A fast food chain, the antithesis of everything an elite athlete should represent. "The money is extraordinary," my father said, "and it's a populist brand, makes you relatable." "It's junk food. I'd be lying." "It's acting, Kieran. It's business. You'll do it." I refused. The silence was a physical pressure. Then the compromise. They'd decline the deal, but I'd have to sign over 20% of all future earnings to the Family Management Fund to cover the lost opportunity cost. That's when I knew. The pool was no longer my sanctuary. It was my escape pod. And I was almost ready to launch. The Olympics were my deadline. Win, and I'd have the platform. Win, and I'd have the final installment of my secret fund. Win, and I'd have the leverage of a global spotlight they couldn't fully control. When I touched that wall and saw the empty seats, I didn't feel disappointment. I felt a profound, chilling calibration. The launch sequence was complete. The Today Show green room was a bubble of fluorescent anxiety. A producer clipped my mic. "We'll talk about the race, the record, the feeling. Then we'll pivot to family support, your incredible parents. Sound good?" I smiled my media-trained smile. "Sounds great." My father's couriered Navy suit itched. It was a costume. I walked onto the set. The lights were blinding. The hosts were effusive. We did the race recap, the video played, the crowd in the plaza cheered. Then the pivot. "Kieran, such an amazing journey. Your family must be over the moon. Tell us about their support." I leaned forward. This was the moment. Not of revenge, but of severance. "My family," I began, then paused. The nation leaned in. "My family taught me the value of independence. They taught me that sometimes your real team isn't the one with your last name. It's the one that shows up." The host's smile flickered. "That's deep. So your parents are here?" "No," I said, my voice clear and calm. "They're not. They had prior commitments. But my coach, Marta, is here. The woman who picked me up at 4 a.m. for 10 years. And Hector, the janitor at my first pool, who became like a grandfather to me. They're my family. And today I'm using this platform not just to thank them, but to start something new." I reached into the inner pocket of the expensive, itchy suit. I pulled out a single sheet of paper. "This is the founding charter for the Anchor Foundation, a nonprofit I'm funding with my own career earnings. Its mission is to provide coaching, housing,
and financial literacy training to young athletes from under-resourced backgrounds, so they never have to choose between their dreams and their autonomy. The studio was dead silent. You could hear the camera motors whirring. I'm personally seeding it with $3 million. A gasp from the plaza crowd. The host was floundering. That's incredibly generous. Your parents must be so proud of this philanthropic vision. I hope they understand it, I said, looking directly into the camera lens, speaking past the host, past the studio, to a golf course in Palm Springs and a luncheon in Bel Air. It's about protecting what you build. It's about owning your own name. In the last 24 hours, I've also legally dissolved the Kieran Denver Athlete Fund, managed by Denver Capital, and reclaimed control of all my assets. The Anchor Foundation is the first step in using them as I see fit. It was a nuclear option. Deliver with a smile. I had just publicly accused my family's firm of financial mismanagement and announced my financial and emotional emancipation on live television. My phone, back in the green room, began to vibrate, then scream. The fallout was a Category 5 media storm. Gold medalist divorces family, launches foundation. Denver Capital under scrutiny after athlete's claims. My father's first call was a masterpiece of fury. You ungrateful little bastard, you've ruined 20 years of brand building. You will retract that statement and apologize. No, I won't, I said, standing on the balcony of my new self-funded apartment, the city sprawled below me. The funds have been transferred. The foundation is incorporated. The press has the financials showing the suppressed returns from your management. It's done. I will sue you for every penny, for defamation. Sue me, I said, my voice quiet. Discovery will be fascinating. I have all the statements, Father. The ones showing your firm's excessive fees, the loans you took against my future earnings without my consent, the endorsement offers you turned down because they didn't pay you enough. Let's go to court. I'd love to explain it to a jury. The silence on the line was a victory. He knew I had the documents. My years of training logs were actually forensic.
My mother's approach was velvet. Kieran, darling, you're hurt. We didn't know you felt this way. Let's have dinner. We can fix this. There's nothing to fix, Mother. You missed my world record. You've missed the last decade. You can't fix absence. You can only accept it. We're your family. You're my shareholders, and I'm buying out my stock. The final confrontation was inevitable. They flew to New York. We met not at a restaurant, but at the aquatic center, where it all began. The chlorine smell was like a time machine. They stood on the deck, absurdly out of place in their couture. This is where you bring us, my father sneered. This is where I built the thing you tried to own, I said. I have a final offer. You sign a public, joint statement acknowledging my full control over my name, image, and finances. You donate $5 million, a fraction of what you saved in taxes by claiming me as a dependent all those years, to the Anchor Foundation. In return, I do not release the full audit to the SEC or the financial press. The Denver Capital brand survives, if somewhat tarnished. Ilara finally spoke. You're so selfish. You're tearing the family apart for what? A stupid foundation? I looked at her. For a door, Ilara. One you'll never have to walk through because you were born on the right side of it. I'm building a door for kids who only have windows, and I'm using the money you all thought was yours to do it. They took the deal. Pride was expensive, but a federal investigation was costlier. The statement was released. Bland, corporate, but a surrender. The Anchor Foundation's first dormitory opened last month. It's in Detroit, near a public pool with a leaky roof and a legendary coach who works for free. We fixed the roof. We're paying the coach. I still swim, but now it's for me. The water feels different, lighter somehow. My parents and I don't speak. The family fund, the one I dissolved, is a ghost story they tell at parties to illustrate the perils of emotional investing.
Sometimes, at night, I hold the gold medal. I don't think of the empty stands. I think of the kid in Detroit who just got a new pair of goggles from the foundation, whose eyes lit up like I'd given him the moon. I think of Hector, who sits on our board. I think of Marta, our head of development. They tried to turn my achievement into a ledger entry, so I turned their ledger against them and used the proceeds to build a lighthouse. The revenge wasn't in the exposure. It was in the transformation. They gave me a suit to wear for their narrative. I used its pocket to hold the blueprint for my freedom. I am no longer Kieran Denver, the Denver family's aquatic asset. I am Kieran Denver, founder. And the water is finally, beautifully, my own.